Creepy vibes and cozy mysteries. That's what we're doing today on CPL Radio. We have author Annelise Ryan, who we've been talking about quite a bit around these parts. She is part of Cedarburg Reads this year, our guest author, and we're extremely excited to have her. We have to say that because we don't want her to turn Bigfoot on us. I'm joined today by Kasey St. Clair, who is our youth services librarian and all-around good egg, and I'm Jeff Messerman, and I'm a librarian upstairs and a mediocre egg, and I run the I run the radio station too, which is a whole conversation unto itself, which we won't have today. So let me welcome Annelise Ryan. Hi.
Hi. Thank you.
Ah, welcome. Wonderful to have you. You know, the initial question that I have just burning right off the top of my head. So I have kids, and my kids love a show called Gravity Falls. And I don't know if you're familiar with the cartoon Gravity Falls on Disney, but there's something, the setting is something called a mystery shack, which you can see on your phone here. And the mystery shack reminds me of the little place that your main character runs. Absolutely. So have you seen that before? I was wondering if anyone's compared your work to Gravity Falls before.
No, I get compared to Scooby-Doo a lot, but not Gravity Falls. I haven't watched Gravity Falls, but I will now. I'll have to check it out.
Yes, absolutely. And they're dealing with a lot of potentially supernatural monster type things. So it definitely would be in your wheelhouse, I think. So anyway, Kasey, I don't know if you have a first question off the top of your head to fire out.
Sure. I really love the book, and I would love to talk about a very complicated, complex character called Newt. He's my favorite. What was sort of your inspiration for Newt and his wonderful sidekick, Morgan Carter?
Well, let's see if I can do this here. Hold on just a second.
Oh,
that fellow there is my inspiration for Newt.
He's working hard, obviously.
Yeah, well, he was down at the beach earlier, so he's kind of tired.
Wonderful. Do you go into the woods with Newt, or your little dog there?
Yeah, he's not so little. He's like 88 pounds. But yes, we do a lot of walking in the woods. We back home, we're in Wisconsin. We have a dog park that's on the river and also has a lot of walking paths through the woods. So we spend a lot of time doing that. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had something make your spine tingle while you're out in the woods?
Not there, but I used to live out in Washington State, which is kind of the home of Bigfoot. And I did have a creepy experience there once when I was walking in the woods over on the peninsula side across from Seattle. And we just heard something very large kind of stomping through the woods, and we didn't actually see anything. But it was kind of creepy.
Have you ever heard the adage, the smallest creatures make the loudest noises in the woods?
I'll tell you what, turkeys walking through the woods are extremely loud. They sound like a man walking through the woods. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. So that's something my grandpa has always said. He actually lives near the Schwamigan National Forest, and sometimes we hear something that's really loud and it ends up being a chipmunk. So through the book, I was wondering, is this Bigfoot or is this a chipmunk?
But, yeah. So let me ask you, you've been at this for quite some time. This writing thing.
Oh yeah, the writing thing. Yes.
I mean, not walking in the woods. Maybe probably done that for a long time too. But and a lot of our readers are just being introduced to you now through the through your current series. But you have a whole other series that's also set in Wisconsin with an RN, with a registered nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And that series is pretty quirky and tongue in cheek too. And I'm just wondering, how is this? How did you come to this series after that one? I mean, what was the process of getting to that?
Well, let's see. Let me kind of synopsize my writing career here. I lived in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, when I had my first novel, when I finally found an agent and had my first novel published with HarperCollins. Mm-hmm. It was a paranormal suspense type of book. And I ended up having 3 books published with HarperCollins. But before my 3rd book came out, this was back in the late 90s when the book industry was all in a panic because there were these new things out there called ebooks.
Oh.
And they thought that was going to be the death of books and what's going to happen to the industry. And they were all in a panic. And HarperCollins was reshuffling things. And essentially what happened to me was I ended up getting dropped from their publishing house before my book came out. So they didn't publicize it or advertise it. I don't even think it was in their catalog. So I kind of had my writing career take off and then come to a screeching halt. And then I had spent some time trying to write a humorous mystery novel involving a nurse, because I've been a nurse. I was a nurse as a nurse for almost 50 years. And the people that I've worked with in the healthcare are just so funny. They're hysterically funny people. They come out with some of the smartest little sarcastic remarks. Their humor tends to be dark, but I've loved it. And I wanted a way to express some of that, to use it. And so I had tried to write a series that actually came about when I saw an autopsy. I had this thought because it was my first autopsy, and I wanted it to be something not too offensive, not too smelly, or make me puke or throw up and embarrass myself. And it turned out to be a young boy who had been in the river for a while, but there wasn't any really bad smell. And when they opened him up, I said, like, thank God the inside of this dead body doesn't smell much worse than the inside of a live one, because I've been in operating rooms. But as soon as I thought that line, I realized it made a great first line for a book. And so I took that thought and I ran with it, and I tried to set it in Virginia, and it wasn't working. And so my career had kind of come to a halt, and I ended up moving to Wisconsin. Long story as to why. But when I decided to change the setting to Wisconsin, all of a sudden everything just worked, because Wisconsin is quirky enough and weird enough, and I don't know. It's Wisconsin. It's just unique and strange in so many ways that are just fun. And I worked with a lot of really great people in Wisconsin too, who continued to provide me with little humorous bits that I stole very frequently from them, and put in the book. So that series did come about during that. And there was actually a second series that I wrote under a different pseudonym. That's a 6-book series that takes place in Milwaukee with a bar owner who owns she owns the bar, and she has a neurological disorder that kind of helps her solve mysteries. Anyway, those books were all published with Kensington, and after doing 20 books with Kensington, they decided that they weren't going to do any more. And so my agent and I kind of put our heads together to try to come up with a new series. And he was talking about, he asked me what kind of TV shows had been my favorite shows. And the first thing I said was the X-Files, because I had loved the X-Files. And I literally cried when the last episode aired, because I was so in love with that whole series. And so we came up with the idea of the cryptozoologist and a mystery doing that, because it was unique. There weren't any other mysteries like that out there. And then he said, if you can somehow work a bookstore into it, I can sell it tomorrow. So we came up with the idea of a bookstore / oddity store, because I'd been in a place like that in New York City once, and it was fascinating walking through and seeing all these weird things that they had in there. And so that's how the idea came about. And the books have been doing really well. They're selling great. Got 2 of them out so far, and the 3rd one comes out in January.
Yeah, you're cranking on them. There's next one is in Rhinelander, correct?
Correct.
All right, cool, excellent. Hitting all the big ones.
Hunting for the hodag, yeah.
Love it.
When I first saw the cover, I looked into the back. I'm like, what cryptid is it going to be? And sure enough, I saw the hodag.
Yeah, I had an interesting experience when doing the research for that when I went to Rhinelander and went to the Chamber of Commerce. The lady that was there when she found out I was going to write a book about a hodag that was potentially homicidal, killing people, she got very upset and said that I couldn't do that because their hodag is beloved and it's their school mascot, their city mascot. Oh my God, you can't do this.
Hey, everybody has a bad day.
So it'll be interesting to see how the folks at Rhinelander deal with the book, but we'll see.
So you might not be doing an author talk there, or
might not. Yeah.
We embrace them, absolutely. Well, cool. Well, this series, I have to ask, and I guess all of your series, and even your writing approach. I run the writers group here, so they would kill me if I didn't ask this question. Where's the beginning, the entry point for you? Do you start with character? Do you start with plot? Combination of the two? What's do you outline? Are you a pantser? Boy, do I have questions.
Yeah. So I'm a very loose outliner because the publishing houses kind of require like a synopsis, a basic synopsis of the story. So that forces me to kind of sit down and think about the beginning, the middle, the end, who the main characters are going to be, and write that out. However, when I'm actually writing the story, I often end up taking little strange side routes and ending up in a completely different place than where that synopsis said I was going to end up. And so far, none of the publishers have had an issue with that. Thank goodness. So I'm kind of a pantser once I get going, but I do have that very loose. Usually, it's like 3 or 4 page synopsis that kind of helps me, particularly in the middle part of the book, which is always the hardest to write. I'll be sitting there staring at the page going, what was I going to do with this again? And I'll go back and read my synopsis. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember now. I had that plot line and this plot line. So that kind of helps me a little bit. And I think, I already told you that for the Maddie Winston series, the actual genesis of that whole idea was that thought I had during an autopsy, literally just that the inside of a dead body smelled so much like the inside of a live one. And my writer brain recognized what a great first line that would make. And the series was literally born of that one idea. My other books, I had the first book I ever had published with HarperCollins. The basic plot came about because of a newspaper article I read about a scientific discovery regarding serotonin and its effects on the brain. And from that, I just kind of built this idea and this story. The characters tend to come later, but I spend a great deal of time on my characters when I'm writing, just developing them, changing them as I want to. It makes you feel like a god sometimes. It's kind of fun. And then the people in my life that make me mad, make them characters too. And then I either kill them off or torture them or do something else to them. And it works real well.
That'd be very satisfying. Yeah, very satisfying life.
Very cathartic.
Go ahead, Kasey.
I do identify with the character Morgan. I know she has the scientific background, but also plausible existability is her motto. Do you identify with Morgan? And if so, how much of you is in that character?
I identify, of all my characters, I identify with the Maddie Winston character the most, and that was the 12-book series, the nurse who goes to work for a coroner, just because she is a nurse, and in Wisconsin, and just a lot of aspects of her relate to me. But there's a little bit of me in every one of my characters, and certainly in Morgan as well. And her scientific approach is something that I always adhere to. I'm a very scientifically oriented person. You work in medicine, you almost have to be. But I'm open to the possibilities. I want to believe. I want to see. I would just be ecstatic if I actually saw a Bigfoot or a Loch Ness monster. There's a part of me that wants to believe in those things, but I can't until I actually get my own proof. So.
Some cheeky member of our friends group suggested that for a promotional, I dress up as Bigfoot and run through Cedarburg in preparation for your visit. So you could have had your wish. I declined, but it could have happened. So we're here for you.
They actually do have in Bayfield. They do have a large wooden Bigfoot cutout that they place in different areas around town. It's kind of an inside joke that they have. Where's Bigfoot this week? So it's kind of fun trying to spot Bigfoot.
It's our own Area 51.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes. So cool. Go ahead, Kasey.
Yeah. Bouncing back to you being a nurse, the opening of the book is quite gruesome. Poor Bodie Erickson is, for lack of a better word, shredded to pieces. In your history of being a nurse, have you ever cared for those who have been injured by an animal? And tell us about that. Oh,
wow. So probably the most dramatic patient. I've worked a lot in ERs, so I spent the majority of my career actually working ERs. And when I worked in a small hospital out in Ojai, California, I saw a woman come in one time who had hit a deer, and it was a deer with antlers. It had come through the windshield, and the antler had actually pierced her neck. And the EMTs, fortunately, had been smart enough to not try to remove it, to just cut the antler off, and they brought her in. And surgically, they went in to remove it, and that antler had pierced her carotid artery, hadn't gone all the way through it, but had nicked it. And if they'd pulled that antler out, she would have bled to death. I've seen people who have been attacked by dogs and cared for them. I've never really cared for anybody that was attacked by a bear, or I'm trying to think. Mostly it's been dog bites and cat bites and those kind of things in the ER. I haven't seen any of the really juicy stuff other than that one. That one kind of stuck in my mind.
Yeah, and in Wisconsin, I think if that happened to someone here, they would take the antler and mount it and put it in the room.
Absolutely. Absolutely they would, yeah.
You've raised my natural paranoia because we're deep in deer season right now, jumping across the highways. So I'm going to keep the brights on, maybe during the day too.
Wow.
Always a danger, yeah.
No, and that it makes your writing come alive. Like they talk about the stench and all the gross bits that happen, and it really comes to life. So
yeah, I have seen people, very badly mangled and torn up, just not by animals. So, so that piece of it is realistic. When I write about it, I can envision that in my head. I've seen people mangled by machinery and by vehicles and other things. And
that's what I love about your work thus far. Not the mangling part, but the the fact that the fact that you're kind of, categorized in the cozy mystery, and it is. I mean, you have a lot of quirky small town Wisconsin stuff, which is great. But I like cozy mysteries. For me, always kind of come up a little flat because they're a little too cozy. Yours aren't, and that's what I like about yours. Is yours have an edge, and that actually I'm like, oh, I like it. It's like cozy plus.
Yeah, it ticks off some of the cozy, the dedicated cozy readers, though, when they pick it up thinking that it's going to be a nice, gentle cozy, and then they get slammed with that right at the front. And I had the same problem with my Maddie Winston mysteries, only because there are autopsy scenes in that book and in those books. And so there's a little bit of blood and gore, and I think they occasionally cuss. And so that sometimes ticks off some of the real cozy readers.
You may have invented a new genre, gory cozy.
Yeah, I've always pushed the genre line with all of my books. Yeah.
It's great. That's actually as a reader, that's what I love. So it's awesome.
Oh, good. Good. I need lots of people like you.
Annelise, do you have a trusted person that you bring your work to, and like a small group of people or early readers?
Not anymore. Back when I had my first novel published, I did. I was in a group of people online with a service called Prodigy. I'm dating myself with that. That doesn't even exist anymore. But we had this very fun writing group that started there, and I'm still friends with the people I met online, and I've met some of them in person now too. But once I had a couple of novels published, I kind of quit giving anything to beta readers or other readers. And over the years, I've learned to trust my own ability to write. I had a lot of doubts in the beginning, but I know now that I can do it. And I've had great editors at all of my publishing houses that have really given me good feedback. Before my first novel was published, I actually hired a grad student I took a class from to kind of help go through a practice novel that I had done that I never tried to get published, and just really redline it for me. Tell me what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, because I'd been struggling for years. I sent my first story out to Highlights magazine when I was like 17. So I've been doing this for a long time, trying to get published with short fiction. And when I switched to long fiction, I was really wanted somebody to give me a lot of good feedback, and he did that for me. And since then, I've just I feel more comfortable with each book. There's always a little bit of doubt that when I turn it into my editor, there's that feeling of, oh my God, he's going to tell me it sucks and that I have to start all over again. And so far, knock on wood, that hasn't happened. But
nice. Has Hollywood come calling yet? Because as I'm reading your books, I would love to see these portrayed on the screen. Is that a possibility? Because it's really
It is.
Nice.
And it's not. I can't discuss it, but yeah, I've had options in the past that fell apart. The Maddie Winston series, we had great options for Hallmark mystery movie things going on, but COVID hit and some management changes happened, and that didn't happen. So, but we do have some interest in the Monster Hunter mysteries.
Great. Cool.
for streaming at this point, I think.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, that's where the game is at. So cool. It's exciting. I'd love to see it. Maybe we can convince them to film in Wisconsin.
Actually, that's one of the attractions that got this interested. So
cool,
yeah,
cool,
yeah.
Very cool, excellent.
I might be going like this through the series for some of the parts, but it's really exciting to think about.
Absolutely, cool. Annelise, have you been through Cedarburg before? It's your first time here?
I have not. Yeah, I haven't been to Cedarburg. I've spent my summer touring a lot of little towns all through northern and eastern Wisconsin. It's been fun. So I'm looking forward to it.
Exciting, cool. Well, we are as are we. It's going to be great. We've been doing the Cedarburg Reads thing for a while now, and it's kind of our Christmas season around here. You know, everyone's very excited and buzzing. So
and I love the Bigfoot hunt that you have going. That's a great little advertising thing.
People are doing very well. They're finding him everywhere, so it's a good sign.
Oh, good.
Absolutely. So cool. Well, thank you for taking the time, and definitely appreciate it. And thanks for writing about our cool and somewhat bizarre state. So
no, well, thank you for having me, and thank you to all of Wisconsinites for being who you are.
We'll step up our game for you. All right. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.